Okay, can you turn the microphone? Is it on?
I think it's on.
Can you hear us now?
Can you hear us?
Fine. Okay, good. So just handing the floor over to Mario Pace from the University of Malta. Welcome again.
Lo possiamo ingrandire? Okay. Okay, so well, good morning again. What I will be talking about now is based both on my experience, personal experience in the design and implementation of languages for specific purposes, as well as from research. Now, to be honest, so that I won't deviate because there's so much to say about the subject, I will try and keep to my script as much as possible. So bear with me if at times I will concentrate on the script, otherwise I will not make it in time. So vocational education and training in schools is a relatively modern development. Until the 19th century, due to the low social status associated with such instruction, as opposed to a classical curriculum, such education was provided only by apprenticeship. With the onset of the Industrial Revolution, national systems of VET started to differ widely in accordance with the societal characteristics of each nation, with each country having its own VET system. By the late 19th century, public vocational education across the globe consisted mainly of manual training and practical arts, while vocational learning remained an on-the-job phenomenon. This has changed radically in recent years. Economic and social developments in many countries across the globe over the last decades have increasingly underlined the need for a major overhaul in vocational education and training. The rapidity of technological and social change, the dramatic shifts from agrarian or industrial eras to the knowledge era and beyond, accompanied by equally dramatic changes in the nature and structure of work, have impacted countries and economies across the world. They have placed new broad-ranging demands upon technical and vocational education to better meet the increasingly complex training needs of industry, individual learners, and other key stakeholders. This has led to vocational education or career and technical education, which used to be associated mainly with trades like carpentry and culinary arts, to expand and venture towards infinite new horizons, featuring programs in fields like healthcare, technology, graphic design, agribusiness, artisanship, construction, engineering, etc., etc. Vocational education and training can be defined today as education and training which aim to equip people with knowledge, know-how, skills, and/or competencies required in particular occupations or more broadly on the labor market. In the face of the new technological developments, education, teaching methods, and curricula must be continuously evaluated, not only regarding innovative and digitally based learning and teaching methods, but also with an even stronger focus on lifelong learning competencies and transversal skills. This capability to acquire new skills and competencies, to further develop existing knowledge, is the driving force towards extended schooling, towards making VET and general education more equal, and towards making post-secondary and tertiary VET programs not too different from other academic tracks. One very effective way that can help VET students to acquire such skills is through international mobility, as this provides the opportunity of enhancing cooperation and of sharing good and effective practices. International mobility isn't only about academia and studies. The overall experiences and skills that accompany outward mobility often have the biggest impact on the students' development by increasing their human, social, and cultural capital. Students gain international experience, get to know different cultures, improve their language skills, and develop a more cosmopolitan identity, which in turn all contribute to their personal development. But for this to happen, and to be able to take full advantage of such international opportunities, language competencies become key, giving access to these new language opportunities and to connect with counterparts across the globe. As stated by The Economist, language has replaced work visas as the main barrier to mobility. Indeed, language is one of the main impediments to the efficiency and effectiveness of exchange programs between countries. The importance of language skills is also highlighted in the European Commission Council's explanatory memorandum statement of 2019, where it is stated that language competencies are at the heart of a vision of a European education area. In response to a rapidly changing global marketplace, most countries now recognize the importance of a highly skilled multilingual workforce. Students with good language skills enhance their future career prospects and opportunities in fields ranging from hospitality and tourism to health, marketing, and finance. Expanding international connections in countless occupational sectors and in society at large have made knowledge of foreign languages ever so important. Foreign languages are no longer considered merely an ingredient of general education, but have become a prerequisite for international communication and mobility in education, on the job, and in business.
Mario, can you just move your computer?
Oh, sorry about it. I'm very sorry about it.
No, that's okay. Just move it. Yeah, that's it. We
Okay.
can see, yeah.
Great. Okay. Okay, is it better like
Yeah.
that? Okay,
Yes.
great. Now, it is a known fact that many learners who attend vocational education and training courses across the globe are motivated to acquire a set of vocational skills to access employment, but are much less motivated to improve their basic language skills that underpin the acquisition of these skills. They are often reluctant to either start or return to studying languages, which they might well associate with negative memories from the early school years, or because they see them as not being relevant to their future careers. Now, this importance of language learning in VET is confirmed by various studies and research, which I will not delve into over here, but you can consult in my paper. Now, one possible solution to this lack of interest by prospective career students is the introduction of language courses for VET students, which are a combination between language proficiency courses and languages for specific purposes courses. Such courses, perfectly in line with the occupational field singled out in the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages as one of the major fields for language use, would provide a method of learning, teaching, and assessing basic skills or abilities in the language, according to the particular needs of the students and the specific requirements of the vocational domain. In very practical terms, this implies that such language courses need to be totally learner-focused, practically oriented, and applied to professional contexts, addressing the immediate and very specific needs of the learners involved, while demonstrating the practical importance of the knowledge being taught and the possibility to use it in future professional activities. This obviously presents a number of challenges, which need to be discussed and analyzed, both from the educators and the students' point of view. The emphasis should not be on how much language one knows, but rather on what can one do with the language learned. From the learner's point of view, this implies making connections between new knowledge and experiences they have had with real-world contexts and knowledge they have already mastered. From the educator's point of view, they should strive to help learners understand linguistic concepts and forms in a situated and contextualized form, transforming simple things like food preparation, for example, tools, technology, into potential language teaching tools. This is by no means an easy task. Such courses need to address the immediate and very specific needs of the learners involved, having as their driving force, both in the preparation stage as well as in the development stage, the needs analysis of the learners. For this reason, the starting point of any such courses should be a study of the learner's needs, objectives, and expectations for the course, which in turn should serve as the basis for informed curriculum practices, such as syllabus design, materials development, and instructional design. This includes, among other things, forming a list of preferences of what the learners want and need to learn, as far as language and content are concerned. This stage is of fundamental importance, given that the needs of a learner studying, for example, in a hospitality course are totally different from those of another learner studying in an agribusiness or an engineering course. Even the language skills required may vary considerably. As a matter of fact, the people studying for hospitality purposes will most probably need specific reading and writing skills in the language being studied, reading and understanding the contents of an email and replying to it, writing various letters of different nature, be it a letter of complaint, a letter of acceptance, a letter of protest, taking minutes during an important meeting, etc. On the other hand, those studying the language to work in agribusiness would be more interested in listening and speaking skills, varying also according to the sector of agribusiness in which they would like to work. All this means that to be able to perform a holistic needs analysis, the language teacher also requires to gain a knowledge of the respective vocational sector. Having a realistic knowledge about the needs and expectations of the sector is essential for a successful curriculum design, making the cooperation between the education institution and the sector of crucial importance. The advantage offered by such a profession-oriented approach is that it enhances the use of a profession-bound, purposefully designed methodology that gives the teacher clear clues as to what are the factual, most relevant, and linguistically servicing ingredients that a student may utilize for an effective and fast acquisition of a vocation-oriented linguistic course. This implies that the teachers, besides fulfilling the role of curriculum designers, also have to design their own assessment measures that they have to use with their students, which in turn have to be verified for quality assurance purposes. All this has serious ramifications. All this has serious ramifications on the role of the language teacher. The main role of the language teacher would be to help, to facilitate the communication in class, to provide the tools for the learners to develop and acquire the skills they need, not to teach his or her students the rules of agribusiness. They are experts in the field. The role of the language teacher is to equip the learners with tools and strategies that will empower them in a world where the teacher is only one of the many providers or sources of language exposure and communicative practice. In other words, the language teacher is to provide the learners with the necessary linguistic tools to be able to apply the concepts, interpret them, and above all, communicate in the target language, not just with the particular jargon characteristic of that specific occupational context, but also with the language of everyday informal talk that allows them to communicate effectively regardless of their occupational context. Now, such language courses, such language courses in vocational education and training should have a threefold framework design. The first part should consist of an individual theoretical component of learning, which should include, among other things, revising some basic grammar notions and rules, becoming familiar with the most common terminology, introducing the kind of language students will encounter and use in their place of work and in their profession. The second part should consist of an individual practical component of learning, where in collaboration with various companies in the specific field, each course participant is assigned a number of open-ended, supervised, hands-on tasks, which can be performed at his or her own level. The third part of the framework should provide the students the possibility to work in teams, pairs or groups, classroom discussions, role plays, etc. It is important to note that given the possible heterogeneity of the groups, most of the tasks assigned, both on an individual level as well as in teams or group work, are to be open-ended, and the learner should be free to adapt them according to their needs and abilities. Furthermore, specific learning outcomes should be set at the start of each component, essentially describing what the student is expected to be able to do as a result of a learning activity. As a conclusion, I will skip the aspects where I will speak about the benefits and advantages of such a design, because I don't have the time for it. It is clear that languages today require a new market, and that language teaching and learning must go well beyond formal schooling, which does not necessarily provide the best context to motivate students to learn languages. Language learning for vocational or employment purposes is still considered to be a sensitive and delicate subject, given that most language training courses on offer are still considered by students to be usually generic in scope and seldom specifically vocational, even though the authorities frequently acknowledge the need to take more account of the vocational aspect. The way forward is to create a situated language learning environment where learners could learn aspects of a particular language and a vocational domain whilst performing a real-world task. In other words, we need to move away from teaching to use the language to actually using the language to carry out tasks and actions in specific situations that are relevant and pertinent to the students' lives. To conclude, it is only by using real-world settings as a basis for task-based and technology-assisted language learning that teachers can equip the trainers with skills to integrate the acquisition of vocational knowledge and related language skills at the same time. This implies reconciling the vocational dimension of training with that of linguistic training while producing a valid paradigm for the teaching of languages for vocational purposes.
Thank you. Excellent. Thank you very much.